Welcome to New Directions for Women, a program of the Morris County chapter of the National Organization for Women. My name is Rebecca Lubetkin, and I always have to say this, that I and all the members of this crew, the women in the studio and the women in the control room, are all members of this chapter of NOW. And today we have a guest who's very close to our chapter of NOW, which I'm going to tell you in a minute. First, I want to tell you that it's a very engaging show, and a show that may, when you see the title, at first blush, make you feel as though it's going to be dry. But I guarantee it's not dry. It'll energize you and renew your hopes for fair elections that actually result in the will of the people. This is a very serious problem today. Many talented, highly qualified people are discouraged from running for office because campaigns are much too expensive. Our show features a new experimental program that promises to offer clean campaign financing so that candidates for state elections will not need to depend for financing upon special interests who expect return favors when they are elected. Our guest today, Tom Wyka, has had direct and very recent experience as a candidate for Congress, running against a long-term and very well-financed incumbent. Tom was born in New Jersey. He excelled at Clifton High School in academics, in athletics, in music, and then went on to major in business at Bucknell University with a minor in philosophy. That's very interesting. In 1993, he received an MBA from Seton Hall University and has worked in the information technology industry as a certified project manager for more than 17 years. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
Glad you're with us. The discussion today will be about a pilot program in 3 legislative districts in New Jersey to ensure fair and clean elections, to provide taxpayer funds to candidates to reduce their dependence on special interests. Before we discuss the new program, I have some questions about what is the usual method of finance. I mean, this is only in 3 districts?
Yeah.
So all the rest of them are doing something else?
Yes.
What are the rest of them doing?
All the rest of them are doing the traditional privately financed campaigns where a candidate who's running for office calls everybody they know on their contact list and everybody that they can possibly network to and ask for money. And in a lot of situations, especially with incumbents, there's a lot of special interest groups, a lot of PACs who donate large sums of money to candidates.
Donate large sums? Is there a limit?
Yes. Well, traditionally with all of our finance systems at the federal level and at the state level, there are limits. But there's a lot of different schemes where you can talk to one person and they get 10 other people to donate to you. And really what it comes down to is who can tap into all of the deep pockets that are available for political influence.
So they would bundle the money from 10 different people, and it would come out to be a fairly good sum.
Yes, yeah.
But they're the one that gets the...
Right. It's the old adage about the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
Oh, right. How much money does it take to run a state election? Do you have any idea?
There's a range. People who are trying to mount a serious campaign for assembly or senate will have to get well into 6 figures, well into 5 figures, if not all the way into 6 figures in a lot of districts. I know of one candidate here in Morris County. Tom Jackson probably raised about $150,000 and lost by a few percent still. But you can see the range anywhere from incumbents that may have raised only $50,000 or $60,000 if they're safe, to people who raise either $100,000 or as much as $300,000 or $350,000 in some cases.
And it seems as though the incumbents really don't have to raise as much because they're already better known and they've done a lot of favors for people.
That's true. They always have the bully pulpit.
The pressure isn't as great on them.
And the name recognition. But also a lot of the money will gravitate to them naturally because people bet on the winner.
Like to bet
on the winner. That's
like to bet
right.
on the winner, and because I imagine we have a lot of one-party districts. Is it
Dominated by one party? It's very hard for a challenger to get their message out there. So if you have a Democrat and a Republican district that has alternative ideas, it's very hard for them to get those ideas out there if they're not well financed. Same goes for a Republican in a Democratic dominated district. It's very hard for them to get their alternative ideas out to the public if they're not well financed, if they can't be perceived as a winner and bring in that money.
Yeah, you don't want to put your throw good money after bad, so to speak.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes that's what it comes down to. They have to sell even harder to convince people to donate to them.
So what is the effect of that traditional way of financing campaigns? What is the impact on public policy?
Well, one of the things that you have is, one of the things that's most remarkable and what frustrates a lot of voters in general is a culture of incumbency. Whereas when you have people that bet on the winner, bet on the person that has the name recognition, when all the money gravitates to them, you have a culture of incumbency where it's very hard to knock the incumbent out of office if they're not doing the job and really doing the work of that the people believe in. And you have situations where people just get discouraged in general in running for office because it's such a daunting task to raise that amount of money. Now, I personally, convinced myself that that shouldn't be the barrier. I believe that the message can beat the money occasionally, and that's one of the reasons why I fight so hard in my own race. But it really is discouraging for a lot of people who won't take the time, won't put themselves out there because they know that the money is with the incumbent or whoever is well connected. And it's not just in the general election, it's in the primary as well. Those who are well connected and can tap into the deep pockets often.
Does it put pressure on you as a candidate, not you specifically, but on the candidate to also put in a lot of his or her money?
Absolutely, and it also drives us to a situation where only people who are wealthy will end up running for office. Everybody knows what happened in our last governor's race. It was one of the largest campaign expenditures we've ever seen in this state, and probably for a state this size. I was particularly personally happy with the results. However, it was really boiled down to a case of one millionaire beating the other millionaire. And we really have to start questioning when we see our democracy get to this point that, is this really the democracy that we want, or is this just the one that we settle for?
Right, right, because we have such, I think, a long-term and deep distrust of public money for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have there been previous proposals? I'm going to ask you to talk about this one, but has anything been tried before?
Well, there's a number of things. Of course, we have our campaign limits on spending. A lot of things have gone into place over the past century or so. But this idea of publicly financed elections was actually proposed in the State of the Union address of Theodore Roosevelt just about 100 years ago in 1907, where he explained that Theodore Roosevelt, in the times that he lived, he felt that capitalism was basically going to chew up democracy and spit it right out. I guess it took a long time to chew. Right. But he had proposed that if the government could make an allocation to candidates, you could actually set spending limits because you could only take that grant from the government, and then we would have parity of voices, and candidates would not have to go to the private interests, the deep-pocketed private interests, to run, and it would be more democratic system. Now, a lot of different proposals have been come out throughout the years. One of them was very interesting that James Carville and Paul Begala came up with in their book a year or so ago, was called Not One Dime, where they basically said, don't let any of the incumbents raise any money, only match whatever a challenger is going to put up. So they already have the bully pulpit, and then we'll have